Let me take you back to an unforgettable scene one afternoon in 2003 when I was a high school junior. There was I, standing in front of a 25-meter long pool. Just imagine me wearing Speedo trunks and goggles. And I was trembling in fear. And I was praying so hard for help because it was my practical test for swimming class. The goal was to swim freestyle across the pool and then back, with 4 students at a time swimming as the rest of the class watches. We all started out with a baseline grade of 100, and for every time we stop, points will be deducted. And so, with the sound of the instructor's whistle, I plunged into the pool, and I was an absolute mess. I couldn't count the number of times I stopped. My muscles were all tense, and the pressure just overwhelmed me. I wasn't doing the strokes correctly. All 3 of my classmates who I swam with were done, and I was left there all alone in the middle of the pool. And all I could hear were my classmates laughing and jeering and taunting that my score has already reached negative. I swear, if Cersei Lannister had her walk of shame, that was my swim of shame. I have never felt more defeated in my life. I grew up introverted and reserved. I was not interested or good at sports. And the inescapable truth was, I was the wimpy kid. But that afternoon, I swore to myself, mark my words, I shall have my grand comeback one day. Ten years later from that fateful day, sadly no major plot twist yet for that wimpy kid. But I got busier with my corporate job back in the Philippines. That's where I came from. And through the years, I guess I stuck to that wimpy kid brand image given to me. So I shied away from getting into an active lifestyle or getting out of my comfort zone. I shied away from trying out sports. And everything changed when my fairy godmother arrived. And she was in the form of a friend from work who was very persistent in inviting me to join her for a Sunday morning run. I refused several times, but finally gave in. And that one Sunday morning began my long-term relationship with running. I actually enjoyed it. And I thought to myself, I could actually be good at it. It was a love at first run story. I'm not usually a morning person, but in the succeeding weekends, I learned to get up very early in the morning just to train. And in 3 months' time, I got to run my first 6-mile race. Running became an addiction. From 6 miles, I progressed 13 miles. I invested in running shoes, running gears, attended trainings and seminars just to help me improve my form and avoid injuries. And when I thought I was ready for it, I signed up for a 26-mile marathon run. And I think I was really crazy at that point. But there I was, unbelievably crossing the finish line. I was so pumped, as if all the adrenaline just came out of my body that time. And I thought to myself, I could actually do more, and I'm capable of doing more. So thinking of what could be next after that marathon feat, I came across a newspaper ad talking about an Ironman 70.3 race that will be held in the Philippines. I had no idea what an Ironman was, except for that Marvel superhero that probably you would also know. And I looked it up and found out that it was a triathlon consisting of 3 events: swimming, biking, and running. And 70.3 represents the cumulative number of miles you'd have to swim, bike, and run in order to complete this race. And mind you, this is just a half Ironman. So double that would be the full Ironman. And you have to complete this within the cutoff time of 8 hours and 30 minutes. So, I can run long distances now, but how the heck will I be able to do that swim? And I heard you have to swim in the open sea. You know, that episode from 10 years back still continued to haunt me. But there was that lingering desire to still conquer that pool of humiliation. So I decided to brave up and face my fear. I signed up for a beginner's class for adults in swimming. And on the very first day, the smell of chlorine instantly transported me back to that scene of my classmates jeering and laughing. I jumped into the pool and realized that the years that passed didn't magically give me fins. I could still barely reach the middle of the pool. But I told myself, I won't be that same high school kid back then. What followed were months of training, and along with them were several days of frustration because I wasn't progressing the way that I wanted to. I was becoming impatient. But I learned to trust the process and trust my swim coach. I did the drills daily that he recommended, and without me really knowing it, I was improving bit by bit. Then one day, I just surprised myself. I was able to cross a 50-meter pool without stopping. So my confidence improved, and I got to improve my endurance further. I swam longer, and I couldn't imagine that by the end of the course, I got to sign up for an open water swim event where I got to swim the open sea without any support. So, running check, swimming check. I was one bike away from doing a triathlon. Okay, so now how do I get a bike? That in itself, the first part was a daunting challenge. But the universe had its way again of providing help when I most needed it. And a couple of high school friends, hopefully they were not part of the hecklers back then, volunteered to help me out since they were very technically well-versed with bikes and they had experience in doing triathlons. And through their help, I got a racing bike and I started off with my training in cycling. Then, after months of training, I think I was ready to sign up for my first sprint triathlon. Short but sweet. I got to finish a triathlon. It was a short distance race, but proved to be very challenging. But I know that the Ironman race would be much, much harder. So what followed were 2 more years. I gave myself 2 more years to join longer races, more challenging races, to help me better prepare for that big Ironman race. But if I'm giving you an impression that it's just that simple, well, definitely wrong. Because along those races, I endured a lot of body injuries, cramps, bike crashes, bike malfunctions, and even an upset stomach while doing the run. But every incident and every race helped me to become stronger, to become wiser, and made me more prepared for that big day. And on the 25th of March, 2018, I found myself at the starting line of the Ironman 70.3 race. It was held in a southern city in the Philippines, and it was one hell of a day, literally. I got through choppy waters during the swim part. The current was very strong that time that it almost consumed most of my energy. And after that, I had to encounter very strong headwinds during the bike route. So I was swimming and biking already for almost 5 hours at a time. And I was the last biker out of the course. There was the time pressure because I know that there's a big possibility that I will miss the cutoff time. Then when I was able to start my run, I had to endure the extreme noontime heat in the Philippines. Now, if you haven't been to a tropical country now, better prepare yourselves. I was cramping throughout my body. And I was just limping my way already, thinking of the worst thoughts, that I would go home without a medal because I won't meet the cutoff time. As you can see in the photo, the struggle is really real. As I was a few meters away from the finish line, I was just surprised as I saw from afar my mother was shouting and jumping for joy. And when I saw the clock, I made it with 10 minutes left before cutoff. When I arrived at that finish line, I just dropped on the floor and I was literally ugly crying. Who would have thought that this wimpy kid would eventually finish an Ironman 70.3 race? I am a late bloomer. It took me 20 years, more than 20 years, before I realized that I could finish a triathlon or I could have an active lifestyle. And I've realized and I've come to believe that it's never too late to fulfill your dream and that you could really be or do anything that you aspire to be. So it is hence pointless to compare yourself with others who may be ahead of you, because you run your own unique race in life. We all start and end different times, but we get to run uniquely our own race. My coach would always advise me to always respect the distance. And this distance does not just refer to the distance of the race, but the distance of your actual journey in life. So take your time. It takes preparation, and it would entail sacrifice, most especially of time, to achieve your goals. Your big monumental goals start from small steps, just as I did one discipline at a time, from running, to swimming, to biking. And it also takes some kind of humility to acknowledge if you're really ready for something. So when you select your battles or races in life, you must really gauge yourself if you have trained for it or if you are capable for it. I've also come to realize the value of having a community to help and support you. I wouldn't have gotten into running without the help of my friends. I wouldn't have gotten that bike without my friends who helped me get that bike. And I wouldn't have corrected my swimming strokes without the help of my coaches. And in all the races that I've joined, my fellow triathletes have been very supportive. They've been providing aid and moral support, especially when in the times that I encountered flat tires or I felt that I was dehydrated. They were just there. And I have not realized any better the value of having good relations and the value of networking. Looking back, you know what? I am proud to be a wimpy kid. I embrace it because it was an integral and essential part in my transformation to become an Ironman finisher. Because these moments, these experiences, where we feel that we have failed, where we feel that we lack something, or we feel that the world looks down on us and laughs at us, these are the moments that actually fuel us. These are the moments that fuel us to strive harder, to push further, and to just be the people that we didn't expect to be, and prove the world otherwise. I always seek inspiration from this Ironman journey for all the other endeavors of my life. I've learned to dream bigger and bolder. Last year, I got to finish an engineering master's degree without having any undergraduate background in engineering. I quit my job in the Philippines to come to the US out of a bigger dream to help my country, which still suffers from poverty, corruption, and other social issues. And I know it's such a big dream, monumental dream, that I ask myself a lot of times, could I really do it? Could I really make a change for my country? And I'm sure you, all of you, each one of you, will have your own big dream. In moments of self-doubt, where other people may say, you can't do it, or it's too late for you to try it out. But always just remember the story of that wimpy kid who once stood in terror in front of a swimming pool. If he eventually finished an Ironman race, then we can do anything. Thank you.